Hello, everyone. Your favorite comm major, Jim, is here. And I just wanted to talk to you about Anchor.fm. It is super easy to set up a podcast and get it out to all those amazing podcast platforms your friends use. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading you this ad. And I'm also a member. So honestly, it's super easy, even for the comm majors. You know, we did not do enough work in college, but it's super easy to upload your episode, get it out there to all those services. So if you want to start a podcast, go to anchor.fm/start and you can, check it out right there. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
Hello and welcome to Comm Majors. I'm Brian Costello.
I'm Jim DeSanto.
And I am Professor Plum.
Okay.
No.
That's an actual person in
I
the
know.
movie.
I thought you were going to create something.
Yeah, I wasn't ready. As usual.
Okay. All right. So today we are rounding out Amazon August with our fan-selected film, Clue, which was recommended to us by Jamie Rogers. So we thank Jamie for recommending Clue to us. But before we get into Clue, we ask the most pressing question of every episode. What are we drinking this episode?
Eagle Rare 10-year-old bourbon.
Ooh.
In my Widowmaker glass.
I, of course, have a story. For my birthday, I was gifted these very old champagne glasses that apparently came from Jim's grandparents or great-grandparents. They are originally European. We're not sure if they are British or Italian. But they're old AF, and I'm drinking a dirty martini out of it in honor of Clue.
I like it. I like it a lot.
And
They're
Jim's
very
new
visually
beverage
cool.
shaker makes a very, very, very cold beverage.
Did he use any of his very many bitters?
I didn't bitter that one. I could have celery bittered it.
Oh, a celery bitter would be delicious in this. We'll try that tomorrow. He made me a double martini last night, put me right to sleep.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
I am drinking Modern Age.
Ooh.
Irish
That's
Stout.
very noir.
That's it feels very thematic.
Yeah.
Yes, which is
That's
from...
a femme fatale.
That's a Miss Scarlet.
Yes, which is from Faces Brewing Company in Malden. And I'd like to thank my friend Eddie Venna for bringing that to me.
Eddie Venna. Good job.
Yes, so thank you.
Nice guy,
It
Eddie.
is time for a fact check. First of all, everyone's favorite comm major. Jim attempts to take that mantle every week with
He
our
tries.
commercial
I do
before the
not.
episode.
You do.
I forgot about
everyone's
that.
Yep, it says it.
favorite
It's working.
It's not.
comm major turned 40 this week.
40 years young. Can you believe it? I know you're all
wasn't-
shocked.
Wasn't even aware that we were originally supposed to
Shocked.
record on her birthday. So I had to inform her. I said,
Take the night off.
probably shouldn't record. It is
Yeah.
your birthday
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
And
we
you're
had
like,
a
"Oh,
lot
yeah."
of stuff planned
Mm-hmm.
for the quarantine birthday. Yeah. No, what did we do, Jim, on Thursday night? Couldn't even tell you.
Yeah.
I think we drank something.
Mhm.
I think we watched something.
We ordered.
We had some good dinner.
Yeah.
We ordered some good
Yes.
dinner. I had
Okay.
blackened mahi. I had some charred octopus. It was delicious. I got some cute little presents from my daughter. She's carrying on the toiletry
Oh,
tradition.
I love it.
These
Little
are
toiletries.
tiny-
sample
Okay.
size
Tiny
toiletries.
toiletries.
Sample-sized toiletries.
Very
She
well
is
done.
very funny. I appreciate her.
Yeah.
Getting in on the
ability
game.
to- Yep, I
From
love it.
Brian Costello, I got The Female Gaze, a book about essential movies made by women. Alicia Malone, which folks were very excited to see that I am going to read. So I am excited to read it. Also, the RBG Pop. I'm thrilled. We explained, I have to admit that my children did not know who RBG is. So we explained who she was, and then we were watching Dora the Explorer, the movie, which is phenomenal. Awesome. If anybody has not seen it, you must watch it. It's so good. And one of the characters dresses up like RBG for the dance. It was perfect.
You will love that movie.
Oh my gosh, Brian, you're going to love it.
I got to watch it. Where is
your kids will also watch it
somewhere?
Yes. Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
Oh.
Yep.
Perfect.
Oh, no. Hulu.
Oh, well,
sorry, it's on one of them.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So the birthday was fabulous. Thanks. The neighbor friends made me frozen fruit wine slushies and got me a gluten-free bundt cake from Nothing Bundt Cake.
It's a bundt cake.
I mean,
Nothing Bundt Cake.
Nothing Bundt Cake.
That would be a great bundt cake store. Nothing Bundt Cake.
That's what it is.
That's
all they make.
The name?
That's all they make. All they make is bundt cakes.
But is that the name of the store?
Yeah.
Nothing Bundt Cake?
Nothing Bundt Cake.
Do they have t-shirts?
We can find out. Let's find out.
Great t-shirts.
Tonight, my folks came over. We did dinner in the backyard. Perfect weather.
I love it.
It was fabulous.
And we'll just celebrate your 40th birthday in a grander scale
41st.
when you turn 41.
Or I'll just turn 40 for like the next 9 years. And we'll just celebrate every year the same now.
We could celebrate the 20th.
That gets real sad when people say
I was
we'll
just kidding.
Celebrate the 20th anniversary of your 21st birthday next year.
I love it. Sounds good to me.
We could do that. Yeah. Some fact checks for last week's episode. First of all, Emil Ardolino.
Yes.
Was in fact born in America. In New York, so he was not Italian. He spoke English.
He didn't even have an accent.
Do we know? Do we know
I'm
for
just
sure?
telling you what my
You're
research
drawing
found.
an inference based on the fact that he was born in New York.
A choreographer. Before he did films, did a large number of like dance movies and films.
Well, how about that?
Before he turned into Dirty Dancing, which I guess now makes a lot of sense, and then went on to make, of course, Chances Are.
Nailed it.
And unfortunately passed away at the age of 50 from AIDS.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know. But so that's the real Emil Ardolino. I think for the purposes of our show, we will just go with our version.
Who is basically Vinny Vidici from Saturday Night Live.
Hey, Vinny Vidici.
If you've never seen the skit, look up Bill Hader as Vinny Vidici interviewing Seth Rogen. The Bear Man. It is hilarious.
So that's what we'll go with. As far as the screenplay for Oscar, it's solely voted based upon film. Yeah. We talked about that last week.
I figured as much. How?
So how much is it about writing? I don't know. I guess it should almost be, actually, I did some research. When they originally started the award, it was not called screenplay. There were two separate awards. It was story, like for coming up with the idea, and writing it. And they've just combined it into one category. So basically original screenplay, they're basically saying, what are the top like 6 original story ideas for a film?
It does make sense. It makes sense that is different than direction. Right? Like the
100%. But if you're not, so my point is, if you're not basing the award on the actual screenplay paper, then you are not differentiating between screenplay and direction.
Yeah, I hear you.
Or editing, or any number of things.
Well, let's be honest. It's very difficult
to pull all of those individual pieces apart.
To pull all those pieces apart at times.
Agreed.
And reminder, the Kyle Mills,
Vince Flynn
book event for Total Power is coming. And I just have to tell you, not only is this event free, all right, free event, but now, as of today, I found out, if you order the book on the free link, you will also receive a signed version of the book when it arrives.
I love that.
At you.
I love that.
And there's more. You will also, with your signed book plate and book, receive a collectible, original, limited edition Mitch Rapp, Vince Flynn, Kyle Mills Christmas card that you could send to someone. All of that.
I would much rather that than
this event.
I think I just got a President Trump email today offering me a President Trump birthday card that I could sign.
Well, you see what you can get. You get all that and more.
And more.
And more. I don't know what the more is yet, but we'll
I think you got to attend the event.
Oh, wait.
You'll find out.
There's more.
Oh, wait,
If you listen to the interview, you will also get a free lifetime subscription to Comm Majors.
Are you gonna work in a Comm Majors plug at some point during this thing?
Perhaps you're just gonna have to listen, Jim.
Oh,
I'm
gonna
nice.
listen.
Might be time for us to get a T-shirt.
Are you gonna open this for questions from the people that are streaming in? And is it audio? Like, do I talk?
No, it is a chat feature. It is a chat feature. For that reason.
In other news, I love your Scooby-Doo T-shirt.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Brand new.
It really frames your face.
Well done.
Scooby-Doo
You're looking
t-shirt.
slim too, BC. Looking slim.
That Claire purchased for me.
Well done, Claire. Dressing your dad well.
Before we go, very sad news, of course, is Chadwick Boseman passed away, who we loved in so many things. And I would say this, will, I think, delay a little bit talking much about it, because in 2 weeks' time, we'll be doing one of his last roles in the new Spike Lee movie,
The Five Bloods.
The Five Bloods. So we'll talk more about him because his performance in particular, from what I've read about the film, is one of the best parts of the movies. It
is so sad. I don't even know. 2020 can just suck it.
So
I forgot that, like, I mean, his Black Panther role kind of eclipsed most of the stuff he did, but like, he was Jackie Robinson, like 42.
So incredible.
He's incredible in that movie.
He told so many important stories.
Yep. So we'll get more to him when we do the movie in a couple of weeks, but it's very sad for his loss. All right, now it's time for Katie to clue us in on Clue with the rundown.
This is Agatha Christie with tonight's rundown.
Okay, I like that.
A group of strangers are called to a mysterious dinner party by a body. They are connected by one thing. They are all being blackmailed. When they discover that their host is their blackmailer, bodies start hitting the floor. This quaint dinner party turns into a whodunit. Was it Mrs. White in the study with the lead pipe? Colonel Mustard in the kitchen with the knife? Or did the butler kill them all?
All I could hear when you said that was, let the bodies hit the
That's what I was referencing. Well done. Thank you.
Well done.
I don't even know who sings that.
No.
Clue, a continuing exploration of the Comm Majors' attempt to shine a light on what the fuck were parents of the 80s thinking, allowing their children to watch some of these movies.
I couldn't take my eyes off of Leslie Ann Warren's chest.
Hers or Colleen Camp's?
No, Leslie Ann Warren. I felt like I was waiting for a Janet Jackson nip slip in every frame. Like I was like, there's the structural integrity of that dress.
Yeah, the maids looked like it was going
challenged.
To stay up.
Yeah, the maid looked like she was strapped in.
Yeah.
Leslie Ann looked like just one little tip, the nip would slip. It was coming. There had to be edits to that film.
Jackie Childs of you.
Yeah, I know. Jackie Childs.
One more tip and the nip would slip.
So Clue, I think uniquely piece of 80s filmmaking in some ways.
Yes.
I think, and we could get to that as we move along throughout it. But a film that received a lot of buzz leading up to us doing this, just on our social media.
People love this
very
movie.
Beloved film.
Do we have some metrics on this? Like I don't because I feel like it was popular when we were growing up. Like I think it was, but I don't know how it did in the box office. I think people enjoyed it in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, this is written by, partly written by John Landis, who had done Blues Brothers, had done Animal House. I mean, all the actors of that time period were, name actors or comedians that people would have known. I think by today's standards, if we were to show this to a lot of people who are 10 to 15, even younger than that, younger than us, most of the actors are probably not the most recognizable people, maybe other than Tim Curry.
Yeah.
But for that time period, the people that are in this movie were some very big comedic actors and things of that nature.
So Jim's got some
give us
critical
some
and audience reviews.
So Metacritic they only have 11 reviews on Metacritic, which is pretty low for Metacritic. So, again, stuff that came out before the internet, it's hard to grade on these sites, but the meta score is 39, which is
so low,
generally unfavorable for the critics. User score is 8.5, which is universal acclaim, which is very consistent with Rotten Tomatoes audience score of 86%. But Rotten Tomatoes has 31 critic reviews, and they're at 65%. So not certified fresh, but on the up and up.
I think that holds. I think this is an audience, this is a fun movie, but I don't think anybody's going to say, this is one of the best movies ever made. Critically, I think you used a great word, Brian. This is a unique film.
I don't think, sometimes it's interesting with critic reviews as well. I'm not sure this is a film best digested and understood with one viewing in a theater, in the sense that I think the dialogue's very well written. I think there's some wordplay but I think there's also, if you don't know where this movie's going, a lot of it will maybe wash over you and you don't grasp it until they start to pull it together at the end.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a Sixth Sense twist at the end.
Yeah, but you're a little
you
off
got to rewatch.
I found it interesting. This was almost an exact opposite of how I felt from last week's film, The Big Sick, where I felt the final third of The Big Sick was probably the weakest for me of the film. This one, the final third of the film is what I remembered about the film.
Oh, interesting.
In particular, the last half hour, which we can maybe get to later when they go through breaking it down. But I think it's interesting in the sense that it does build and kind of go out in a stronger way than certain films. A lot of films have problems with endings. I actually thought, maybe because they had 3-4 of them in this one, you could keep going and eventually somebody's going to like one of the endings. So you're okay, maybe.
Yeah. I think that it does a good job of introducing new information and keeping the audience, interested, right? There's always something that the audience needs to question, follow the strings of that little piece of conversation in order to connect all of the dots. So I think it's a cool movie. There's nothing else like it. If you compare this to any other whodunit film, the tone to me is much more comedic.
Yeah.
You get that sort of, it's the game play. It feels like murder mystery theater.
This feels like the closest film that we've done to this, besides Knives Out, because that obviously the whodunit thing is strong. But the comedy and the way it's written and sort of the fantasy of it, I think is Princess Bride.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a very strong turn of phrase and kind of the things that the writers found funny were just how people react to different things that other characters are doing and how, this weird situation they're put in, how do they kind of,
And I think that sense that I think through this film, there's that aura of unreality.
Right.
Of even though there's nothing sci-fi, there's nothing fantastical in the film, it's definitely a heightened sense of reality. And so similar to Princess Bride, I think you get the feeling of, reading a book or, having somebody tell you a story. You don't think that you've just been dropped into the middle of something that's actually happening.
Right. Yeah.
I also, as I was watching it, wondered why people our age were maybe drawn to it, because watching it this time, I can't imagine being younger and watching this and getting a lot of the humor. It was a very much more adult, like just the whole idea of blackmail, the whole idea of the sexuality of it.
Yeah, even their jobs, things. Like you're right. Like thinking through a kid's brain, I'm like, they wouldn't understand.
But we knew the game.
But the game, you're 100% right.
Yeah,
that's the buy-in, right? Is that kids were excited.
Yeah. And I think they actually, interestingly, do a pretty good job of getting all the aspects of you need into the game.
Yeah.
In a fairly original, interesting
down
ways.
To the floor design.
Right. Yeah. And the what's it called? The
secret passageways.
Passageways. And I think they did I don't know if it was intentional and it just kind of worked out in their favor. They kind of separate like how a person commits the murder from any of the motive, right? So like as a kid, you didn't need to care why the person was killing them.
No,
it was more interesting, like why, or it was more interesting of like how did they get, and how did they get away with it in the moment, right?
Well, right, it's the solving the mystery,
right? So you don't need to know that Colonel Mustard is seeing whores in DC,
but and that Christopher Lloyd is almost a sexual predator.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
But the end part to me, as I wear my Scooby-Doo shirt, is very Scooby-Doo-esque, which I could get kids liking, right? The running from room to room, like all those crazy things that you would see. There was a very old Hollywood vibe, I think, to this, not only in the setting, I think they brilliantly set it in McCarthyism, and we could talk about how that heightens things, but just there was a slapstick element to like pratfalls and the way they characterize things and stuff like that you don't see today. I mean, I think the only filmmakers I could think of today that would even attempt anything like this would be if the Coen brothers wanted to do something. I don't see anybody else taking a shot like this.
Well, yeah, like Hail Caesar, it has a little bit of this going on. You never saw that?
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, and it's set in the same time period, but it's LA in the movie industry, and it has a little bit of this kind of slapstick.
It is. It's a great parallel actually to it when you look at it. I don't think done as well as this. I thought Hail Caesar was okay.
Yeah.
I think Clue's a little tighter in terms of how they do it. But I thought, Katie, when you said dinner theater, that's what I feel like. And that's where I'm slightly torn here. I think this is enjoyable and great and all this type of stuff. But I also feel like it was TV movie-ish.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, the direction is not great. The shots are not great.
It's certainly fun and like great. And in particular, the last 30 minutes I think is really good. The rest of it, I feel, is a dinner theater-esque performance. But that could have been what they were going for in some respects. So I don't necessarily want to say
it's campy.
Stylistically it's off, because it is purposely campy, obviously.
Right. I mean, so, the minute you get Madeline Kahn, Tim Curry, Mike, what's his name? Mike McQueen, who's
Steve McQueen.
No.
Steve McQueen?
No, what's his name?
John McCain.
From Best in Show.
King. Michael McKean.
Oh, I was so close. Michael McKean. Yeah.
I guess that's close.
So these are comedic. Even Leslie Ann Warren.
You could just call them.
These are comedic actors. So that's setting tone, right? Like you're saying that this is supposed to be a fun film to watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find it laugh out loud funny?
I'll tell you right now. I always laugh at Madeline Kahn when she does that.
Flames.
on the side. I don't know why that line has always made me and the fact that they cut away from her and other characters start talking and she's still going on. She's like heaving breaths and like there's a few times where I laughed out loud at jokes I probably didn't understand as a kid, or just little turns of phrase and little cute writing things that I really liked, especially when we get to the end and they're redoing the different endings of having different characters say the same lines as another character in a different ending and things like that. I thought were really well done. Yeah. But not laugh out loud like seeing Old School in a theater with you. Brian, which I think we missed half the jokes.
Not worrying about somebody aspirating on their
loud.
popcorn. Yeah.
Let's be fair, I don't eat popcorn.
It's a chuckle.
Pretzels. It was
it's a chuckle
pretzels.
movie.
Yeah. It's not laugh out loud funny. I wouldn't say that.
No, but I thought the dialogue is delivered so well.
Yeah.
Again, but it I feel like you've had to see it. It's almost like the Big Lebowski in a sense that I feel like probably the more you see it, the more you're able to take away from it.
Yeah. And so I think we should talk about the end because it's going to take us a while to kind of get through those three scenarios if we want to talk about it. But I will say the one thing I hate in this movie is the casting of Mr. Body. That guy is awful in this movie.
He's a dish rag. Well,
and it seems like it was a perfect role to bring in someone else that
someone
was
huge.
Yes, that's like. Could you imagine? No, stop. They bring in at the time was this 86. If they had like, I don't know who's a gigantic like rich who played a really good rich dickhead like at
Ted
the time.
Baxter.
Well,
Ted Danson. Ted Knight. Like Knight. But
Danger. I mean, somebody it's a cameo.
But
basically.
here's the thing: it's supposed to feel off.
Why?
Because you're supposed to have a feeling at the beginning of like something here doesn't feel right. Like, how is this guy? Like watching the interactions of him between the staff, like something doesn't feel right.
It's because he's a bad actor?
No, I think it's supposed to be because he's the butler, right? So like he doesn't know how to like command that presence of like this being his mansion and these being his servants and hosting fancy dinners. I think it's supposed to feel off.
It's still bad casting.
All right.
Because they could have found someone else better in that role, even an unknown.
Okay.
I just did not like that guy at all. I thought he was, I don't know. Apparently he was like the singer of some rock band or something.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
See, maybe I don't have no idea of who the guy was. I don't remember ever seeing him. All right, so let's jump to the end because it's all building up to basically the last 30 minutes of the movie here. We've had 6 people killed. They're trying to figure it out. Tim Curry, who is the opposite of the guy who is Mr. Body, is just amazing. But this is where he really takes off in the final third. I thought he was good throughout, but I always remember this role for him being like, wow, he was so great in this. And then that final half hour comes and you're like, he is like chewing up scenery in this. And what we end up with is 3 endings.
Right.
And, which, I mean, at the time was probably a shocking thing the first time somebody saw it. But again, it's that gameplay idea, right? Mm-hmm. That you get that if you were playing this as a game, you would always get somebody who would try to say, oh, it was this person with this, and this is how it happened. And then you pull out the card and you're like, no, it's not. So it makes complete sense that they would do this. But let's go through each of the endings. So we have ending number 1, what we'll call the Miss Scarlet did it ending.
Yeah. So she, the ending here is that she is basically dealing in government secrets. She is killing all the possible leaks, or anybody that can tie her to gathering those secrets. Right? Was that the scenario?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and she is basically a madame in Washington, D.C. with her prostitution ring servicing, I guess, the clientele of D.C.
Right, which is how she's getting the information.
Yeah, and Yvette has been involved, and all these other people are involved.
Yeah.
Completely believable.
Sure.
I mean, that could have been the end. It makes sense. The running around, Tim Curry's delivery and the timing. And this is, again, where I felt like it was a stage play because I feel like it was so well timed. They had to rehearse it. And there wasn't also, I didn't think the camera work like Jim had hit on. There wasn't a lot of amazing camera work on this. It was theatrical, I think, in the way it was done. Mm-hmm. Part 2 or ending 2, because then they used the little title card, which the same font as the Clue game.
That's the way it could have happened.
Could have happened, or Miss Peacock could have been the killer.
But in this scenario, she doesn't kill all of them, right? It's kind of like a domino effect of. Am I right? Or am I confusing 2 and 3?
You're confusing 2
I'm confusing 2 and 3. So in number 2, she kills everybody. Wow.
Or she was working with somebody, right? Was she working with one of them? And then we
Yvette.
get to...
She was working with Yvette.
Okay.
And then she kills her. And then we get to 3, which is really a brilliant ending to end all endings. This is how it really happens. And it turns out that everybody
they all
is
killed
a killer.
Someone. They all killed someone.
Except Mr. Green.
Mr. Green.
Yeah.
Who is...
Including an FBI agent.
Right.
And Wadsworth was, in fact...
CIA.
No, Wadsworth was Mr. Body.
Mr. Body. Right. Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry. In the second one, he was CIA.
Right.
Yes.
And I love that. I mean, all the details certainly get confusing between the 3 endings, but there are commonalities, and so like the play of the police or the FBI entering into the scene each time with the same music and the dog, like I love that.
The giant floodlights.
There's like a reveal where like all the law enforcement shows up.
I love Howard Hessman from so many things when we were growing up is the head chief of the FBI or whatever that is.
And Edgar Hoover has sent them. J. Edgar Hoover.
Yeah, J. Edgar Hoover.
I love also his very wide tie.
It's great.
Very big tie.
One of the things I did love about this movie is I thought for a film that's pretty goofy, in terms of everything about it, they made some really great, interesting choices, in terms of setting and all these, like to put it in the heart of McCarthyism so that you're going to immediately, if you know about McCarthyism, have a sense of paranoia or that people would not trust each. I thought that was brilliant. The costume designing, which is by Michael Kaplan, who's won multiple Oscars. And he did, he's one of these guys who does like kind of revolutionary work. Like he did Blade Runner in terms of establishing like aesthetics for certain types of films.
Right.
And the set design, the fact that they were able to embody so much what people loved about that board game is pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah. So the game was invented in 1943. So
wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was that old.
Yeah.
And it's still going strong, by the way. As I wear my Scooby-Doo t-shirt, they have a special commemorative Scooby-Doo edition of Clue on sale now.
Our kids have Clue Junior, and they're obsessed with it. We hate playing it with them.
Yeah, we won't play it because you just got to be older.
We should just hide.
It's not just that. It's like,
they don't have the patience for it. And
it's not a game for small children.
No.
Clue.
No. Though the premise in this one is like who ate the cake.
Yeah, you got to find who ate the cake with what drink.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah. Who ate the cake?
What drink did they have and in what room?
Yeah. Which I appreciate,
Stolen cake.
Also, though, I appreciate how it makes sense that this film would be made with the fear of communism and a commentary on being what's patriotic, what's it. In the midst of Reagan's America.
Yeah.
So it worked. Like, I feel like it probably works, at that time on so many levels that you're watching this and it's obviously satirical. And part of the problem sometimes with satires is if you're not watching a contemporary satire, you need to be aware, obviously, of what it's going after. But I'm sure it was poking fun at America during this time period as well. 1986, you have movies like Top Gun, Rocky IV. Where all these films are so bent on being Americana and the fear of it, and to plug in that in a satirical way, kind of like Kubrick did with Dr. Strangelove, is interesting to do that.
Agreed. Yeah, and they had a openly homosexual character for the majority of the movie. You find out in the very end that he is not actually gay.
Yeah, what was your thoughts on that?
I thought it was just a way of being like, you're all idiots for caring either way. I hope. I didn't take it as, I didn't find it problematic, at least my initial feeling towards it.
I mean, and they didn't really go, there wasn't really a commentary on him being gay. There wasn't.
No, there was more commentary on like the other characters and how they reacted to him saying it. Like, Professor Plum gives him a weird look and like gets up off the couch.
Yeah.
When he finds out he's gay.
Well, they play into those stereotypes, right? And it is ironic, like, that all of them are judging him, when they're all pretty horrific people, to be fair, in many ways.
But you can tell the perspective of the filmmaker, right? That it's that it's about the way the characters respond.
The intention was that like it's not a thing that should matter,
right?
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this before. Whodunits are interesting in the sense that I feel like when you construct them, the ending, you have to get there and everything's in the service of that ending in some respect, right?
Yeah.
So you have to write scenes in ways that if you're going to have multiple viewings, it has to hold up, or you're just done. And maybe since this is a satire, it doesn't matter. But if it's a true whodunit, that's maybe like a thriller or a drama. If you don't have enough in there, one viewing and you're done. This holds up for multiple viewings. Why do you think what are they able to do that pulls that off?
The comedy, because I think if you really start to analyze the whodunit nature of this, it falls apart. Like there's no reason for Mr. Body to call all of them together. It doesn't make any sense. Like none of this makes sense with regard to motives. Like why would someone want all these people in the same room anyway?
What are they gaining?
Unless
situation.
It turned out that Mr. Green somehow, is it Mr. Green?
Yeah.
Wearing blue. That was if he somehow orchestrated the whole thing. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Like there's no world where
the FBI care that he's even blackmailing these people.
Right. Well, I guess know? because of the government secrets and stuff like that. But it doesn't hold up under intense scrutiny, and I haven't even really thought about it yet.
Is it necessary?
It's funny. It's funny.
I mean, ultimately,
and it's cute,
do we care who the killers are at the end? It's just kind of like
it's more of like how they told it and how I love those last three scenes. It gets into this almost meta area where in the third one, the characters are almost aware that they've been through this 3 times. When they first started off, they all scream. They're all their anxiety is built like over those 3 scenes, which is really funny to me. Like I kind of love that idea of like they've been along for the ride. It's very strange, but it works.
So I made a list of 80s films we've done.
Yeah.
All right. That I think highlights a little bit what is different about the 80s. And I was watching, Aileen and I watched the documentary on Action Park the other night.
We started it last night.
We might need to add that to the list.
But my point is, and they get into this a little bit, where they talk about the 80s and just like the mindset of the 80s and this desire to just people didn't care. There was like almost parents didn't care or executives didn't care. It was you're just going to go do what you were going to do, and that's how it is. And so here are a list of the movies we did, some of the 80s movies that I don't believe would be greenlit at all in a modern context. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I just don't think you pitch that to an executive, they have any interest in it.
Yeah, the only reference that would greenlight lit like that today is saying like, I'm doing a modern update on Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And they'll be like, yeah, absolutely. Let's fucking do that right now. Yeah. But if Ferris Bueller didn't exist, there's no way you could pitch that script and it would be like, I mean, you'd have to have someone, you'd have to have basically Tom Holland. Otherwise people would be like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. Big Trouble in Little China.
I'm surprised that got greenlit back then.
Goonies.
Goonies is an interesting one because I think that brings a little bit of that like Indiana Jones feel with like the traps and all that stuff, which I think it's not a ton about like child endangerment. I don't know.
That's not a ton. It's only a little about child. Gremlins.
Yeah, it would have to be a hard horror movie.
And of course, Katie's favorite movie, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across.
Where does chances are fall in this?
Chances are should be remade for every generation.
So do we think that movies of the 80s are a reflection of the end of a period of war where folks were just happy to be alive and not being drafted anymore and they didn't care what their kids did the studios had lots of money, just make whatever they wanted to?
I think there's a few things at play here.
Cocaine.
Which you should watch the Action Park documentary, and it begins to hit on here. I think it is the beginning in many cases of the expansion of the two-parent working household, and as a result of that, teens start to become, as the income level increases, there is a desire to find entertainment for teens and other people. And I think so it greenlights that because there's money-making opportunities.
Right. Or
there.
you can, if you're a teen, you can decide to run
an amusement
park because the owner doesn't give a shit who runs it.
I mean, I can't stress enough. I can't stress enough that people should watch.
We have to add we have a person who can be our...
Tom Gibbons had been there.
Yeah. Many times.
Patty Costello went to Action Park.
Amazing.
She took her child to Action Park. Patty Costello took her child to Action Park.
You?
Not me.
Was there
I wouldn't go there. Are you crazy?
Sean?
She took my brother Sean to Action Park.
Wow.
What?
It explains a lot.
She might have been trying to get rid of him.
Did she make him go down the loop-de-slide even when it was closed?
Yeah. Go down that Alpine run.
Lacerations.
I remember the Action Park commercials, but I also think one of the things that was hit on in that is there was a monetary explosion for entertainment. Like you're saying, Katie, people they had money, they wanted to be entertained, and people were just
cable TV.
Yeah, people were willing to take chances in ways they had not taken it before. And this is like one of the examples, right? We're going to make a board game movie. We're going to make a movie about gremlins. We're going to make, I don't think studios, and maybe this will change now with like Netflix making more movies, and Amazon making more movies and Hulu making movies, that will start to get back to places making interesting choices with films like this.
Patty said it was a frightening place. She's in the chat.
I remember the commercials.
There is you can see the commercial in the show.
Yeah, they used to run them by my house all the time. I mean, in New York.
We would, which is funny. We would never get them
that far.
Never.
We would get it all the time.
Yeah,
but I do think that there's risks. There's risks that they're willing to take in the 80s.
Oh,
that would not be taken now, in terms of, and I also think, who do you market? A lot of these 80s movies are, who's Clue marketed to in 2020? Like, I don't know
people that watched in the 80s. That's it.
But my point is, if we were doing a modern retelling of this is not a PG movie. This is not a movie that, kids who are 10 or 12 years old in 2020 are going to be watching like we watched Clue in the mid 80s. So I think it's interesting in terms of, who they do. I have to say, obviously there's a lot of Knives Out that was inspired in them. I do think Knives Out is just better than this movie. I enjoyed it more. And other people might think it the other way. But one of the things I liked Knives Out, we talked about at the time, was they weren't as concerned necessarily with the whodunit in the sense, because they tell you who actually kills him. What was behind that death is saying. So I think maybe if you go a little bit more dramatic, which is what Knives Out is, the story of how that comes about is more important than in this film again. I think this film, that is less, as a comedy or a satire, it's less of a payoff needing to be there.
Right. Agreed.
I think when you watch Knives Out, you get that this is supposed to be a more, I don't know, beautiful, it's trying to elevate the art of the whodunit, right? So it's trying to play it to a higher, I don't want to say audience, but it's different.
It's more real, right? It doesn't have that detached feeling that this movie was supposed to.
Even though Clue is supposed to be taking place in a mansion with this, upper echelon of people, it's a movie for the masses. That Clue is for everybody. Clue's just, it's funny, Everybody's gonna like Clue.
It literally is a Scooby-Doo episode with real people minus Scooby and Shaggy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's what it is. But it's endearing. That's what these movies are. I guess as you transition into the 90s, and before the show started, Jim and I were talking about this because I had just watched Clueless recently. As you start to shift into the 90s and I think in 2000s, I don't find when you talk to people who are younger than us at times as many attachments to films they maybe watched as kids of the 80s do.
No, but yeah, and that
which is interesting. I'm not sure what that's about, but maybe the films weren't as memorable. I don't know what it is.
I think it's just that we watched a heck of a lot more TV than prior generations.
No, I think we watched a heck of a lot more of the same shit over and over again.
Okay,
because
of VCRs.
But there's a difference, and it happens the same thing happens with music. I don't think my brother and sister, who are 10 and 12 years, 12 and 14 years younger than me, have the same relationship with music because they had so many more options. Same with TV. Like we know Clue. I know Clue because it played on whatever stations I had all the time. And we had, in our collection of VHSs, we had 20 movies to watch, right? And it took up a whole shelf. Now we have thousands and it doesn't need any space. So we were more likely to repeat viewings of things that we found even mildly amusing. And, we made memories around them,
Yes, but I also think, I don't know, maybe this is just my perception. It's not really based on any reality. But I think that kids of the 80s spent a lot more time with the TV than kids of the 70s and prior generations.
I
think there was
agree with that.
We're talking about
that's
after
that. Moving forward, before that, I completely agree, Katie, because maybe that's why we were the first generation to have that attachment, though, because prior to that, that's pre-HBO, pre-VCR. You saw a movie in the theater, the only time you're going to see it is if they re-released it or if that one of those 6 cable channels that existed would put a movie on. So that's absolutely true, right?
Prism always had movies.
Yeah, but when did Prism start?
80s.
Exactly.
Was the first cable station.
Yeah. So my point is, you weren't a kid of the 70s or you weren't getting to rewatch these things unless you had a projector at your house, which probably very few people did that could get prints of movies. Where do we put this in kind of the pantheon of 80s films? Is this kind of slightly memorable, but not an all-timer? What do you think?
Yeah. I don't think anybody's going to bat saying like Clue is the best movie of the 80s. I don't think there's many folks who are going to put it at the top of their list, but it might
in the middle.
It might show up on their top 10. You know, I do think it was a memorable film of the 80s.
It definitely would not be in my top 10 of the 80s, but
it was a good time. Yeah. I think it was probably on par or equivalent to The Big Sleep in terms of the impact it maybe will ultimately have with it. Enjoy watching it. I would some point come back to it and watch it again. And that's where I'll leave it. I don't think it's bad. I think it's enjoyable. I think there's some great performances in it. And I think it's a film that has emotional attachment to it for people. If you remove that emotional attachment, it turns into okay, great. I'm glad I saw it.
No, and I think you're right. I think because it has ties in a few different ways. So obviously there's the tie to the board game. I think a lot of these actors and actresses were beloved. Like
really?
Yes. I
don't know that any of them were above.
I feel like a lot of them were on Hollywood
of that
squares.
Generation. No, so like Leslie Ann Warren was Cinderella, was in The Happiest Millionaire. Like she was like a child, like not a child, but a darling of Hollywood in her 20s. Madeline Kahn, Young Frankenstein. Right. Similarly, Tim Curry, people were wild for, and I mean, he was one of those like Broadway stars that ended up having a film career. So I think that there were a few things going on with this movie. I also think we've talked about the love of the detective story, and this was a twist on the way that often went, right? Like adding that humor into it and not just having it play out like a Perry Mason special or an Agatha Christie whodunit. Made this something new and cool. It was something that I don't think had been really done before. What can you compare this to?
No, I don't. I mean, we probably have to go back to maybe films of the. I don't know if they did something in the 50s.
We should probably make our own movies about board games.
No, I don't know if you would compare it to like the Pink Panther. Like Pink Panther was definitely a more of a humorous detective, but a lot of those were shorter form, right? Like a lot of those were TV shows.
Oh,
so
Fletch is so good.
Anyway, I think people love Clue.
People love Clue. It's on Amazon. Maybe play the game, maybe not play the game.
Mm-hmm. Don't play the game with young children.
Don't play with the kids, and check it out. All right, time for Game of the Week. All right, here we go. Game of the Week. This week we're playing Just Pitch It. I want you to give me a board game. Turning it into a film. Who is starring? Who is directing? Who wants to go first?
Katie does, apparently.
Katie's going first. The Game of Life. One of my favorite board games as a child. We have the Minions version, because we're fancy. We are going to create this into a film that's going to go a little bit noir, a little dark.
Okay.
Maybe a little sci-fi. So we're going to have, we're going to have Jordan Peele as the director. And the premise is, you can go about life making your own choices, or you could decide somebody else could probably do a better job of creating some sort of a life for me, because things are not going very well when I'm in charge of my own destiny.
Okay.
So, if I sign up for this program, they're going to give me a spouse and maybe some kids.
But
and
it's just a little
and
peg
a
with
job.
a ball.
And he's just going to be a stick
This
with
is
a
very
ball. On the top.
dystopian.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
very
this.
dystopian.
Yeah.
And then we'll see how the dice roll or the little spins.
Spins.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah,
have dice.
I love that
Doesn't
sound.
have
The
dice.
sound of the
Clicking.
spinner.
That could be part of the audio on the
It's
trailer.
not assembled. I should do it. All right. So my actor will be William Jackson Harper, who we enjoyed in Midsummer, who is also what's his name on Chidi on The Good Place. We like him.
He does do, and so The Good Place has a very much that vibe, right?
Yes.
Of like,
Yes.
of like a fake simulated
Exactly.
world. Yeah.
And then playing, the basic white Karen, Reese Witherspoon. It's just
Play
always
the shit out of a white
she
lady.
plays the shit out of a white
does.
lady. So there you go. The game
all
of
right.
life.
I'm going with Mousetrap,
Whoa.
starring Josh Gad,
Yes.
Love it.
directed by the easiest choice here, and I can't. It basically pick anybody else is Lord and Miller. It has to be them doing this.
I love
The
it.
guys who did the Lego Movie
Oh, very nice.
and other things.
Will this be live action or animated?
So-
animated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
I just
have a
imagine
little-
Josh Gad being
He's the mouse.
He's the
the
mouse.
mouse.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes.
Just trying to get through life without getting stuck.
Maybe he's the guy that jumps from into the bucket.
Hmm.
Maybe he's that guy.
Ooh, I like that. What a great choice. I have a little write-up for mine. Can I read
Oh.
You can read?
it? Here we go.
I didn't know you could read.
Sorry, the game of sweet revenge. A new erotic 90s-esque thriller from the writer of Labyrinth
How do we get you not to say erotic anymore?
and the director and directed by the ghost of Emile Ardolino. Timothy Chalamet and Michael Jordan are newly married hedge fund brokers.
Michael B. Jordan or Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan, the basketball player.
the basketball player, Kate. Reese Witherspoon
Oh.
as your basic white upper middle class
Yep.
divorcee mother of
She
three.
does it so well.
Holly Hunter as the widow of a tech billionaire. And I'm tying it into our last Just Pitch It pitch. And Richard Grieco as a wine bottle artist recovering from a freak glass blowing factory
Yes, he
accident. What happens when someone in a gated community turns to murder to enforce the HOA?
Oh my God.
Sorry.
That is very, that does feel very Reese Witherspoon and Sharp Little Objects. No, I'm confusing the two things. Anyway, her
That's
most
the
recent.
Amy Adams one. Yeah.
Yeah, her most recent.
Big Little Lies.
Fires. No,
Big
it's Little Fires
little
everywhere.
Fires, big
That's-
little
there's
liars.
White women
Two-
killing other white women.
There's too many 3-word miniseries on
lot
HBO.
of ones where Reese Witherspoon plays a middle class white woman.
Yep.
Lot of white woman hate going on in the
Passive aggressiveness.
yeah.
Passive
They're on
aggressive.
the-
Yeah.
They're on the Moms Club Facebook pages,
Yeah.
just building up that
Shout
rage.
for those wasps.
All right, time for 5 questions.
You want answers? You want answers?
I want the truth! What makes a man, Mr. Lebowski?
What the fuck is the internet?
Why? All right, here we go. 5 question time. Jim is answering this week. First, thumbs up, thumbs down question. Of course, the amazing Howard Hessman was the chief at the end of this. A lot of us know him from Police Academy 2.
Mm-hmm.
Or probably not that. WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yes.
Okay. How about one of his other famous sitcoms, a little show called Head of the Class, ABC sitcom. Thumbs up or thumbs down on Head of the Class?
Thumbs up. I had to be honest, I had to Google it.
Okay.
But I immediately, as soon as I saw the one guy getting accosted by a Girl Scout for not paying her money and eating the cookies, and then I saw the dorky guy who I forget his name, Arvid, coming into
Arvid, very good.
Arvid
Yeah,
coming
Arvid.
into the classroom. I knew it exactly, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I watched a lot of this show."
I confused that with Welcome
Head of
Back,
the
Kotter.
Welcome back, Cotter.
Oh.
I confused just because of the name for a second with Herman's Head, which
yes,
is another
remember that
show,
one,
which
yes. Was a Fox show.
is the same guy in it? Is the one guy one of the people in his head?
I think so. Yeah, I think he is actually.
And Lisa Simpson is in Herman's Head. Her voice is one of the or Bart,
So,
not Lisa. Bart.
Welcome Back, Kotter was the 70s, and Head of the Class was the 80s.
80s, yes.
Yeah.
And then Saved by the Bell came along.
Yeah.
Your school sitcoms.
Yeah.
Through the
there you go.
decades.
There you go. All right. Question 2. Jim, would you rather play Monopoly or Scrabble?
Oh, so this is tough, but I will say it depends on the mood I'm in. If I want to be challenged, I play Scrabble because my skill set is way more in line with Monopoly. Manipulation, lying, all that.
I was going to say, to me, this is an easy answer.
It's Monopoly.
Because
I do
we
like
have-
Scrabble a lot, though.
You know how much I love Scrabble.
Yeah.
And I always feel like if I ask you to play Scrabble, I'm going to be like...
Do we even have Scrabble?
Yes, of course we have Scrabble. We have it in 2 forms.
Okay. Well, let's play
I think you
Scrabble.
should
I
play
love to play
Scrabble
some
before our
Scrabble.
next episode and see who wins.
Okay.
I would love it.
Now,
Jim's
I
really
will
good
say,
at rocking those points.
I will say I have a strategy of of playing Scrabble that has nothing to do with making words. It has everything to do from keeping the other person from being able to score.
Okay.
And it works incredibly well.
Yeah, he's very good with strategical maneuvering.
Okay, so you two will play and we'll find out who won. Jim, if you were a fill in the blank question, if you were a character in Clue, what would your name be?
Brother Bourbon.
Oh,
and
that's not a color.
be a
No, I know,
monk?
but no, it's like a brown.
No.
Yeah.
Friar Bourbon.
Brother Beige.
Fry-
Brother Beige.
Ew.
Brother Beige.
Brother Brown.
No.
Brother. Well, hey, that would work.
That's
Brother Brown.
sounds like a South Park character waiting to happen.
I don't
It
like
kind of does. All right, question 4, favorite question. What is your favorite drinking game?
Oh, I mean, to piggyback on number 2, it's Asshole because of the strategic nature of that game. It was always my favorite to play.
But beer pong.
Oh, but beer pong, I was actually pretty good at beer
I
pong.
loved
once in a
beer
while.
pong. I love the activity.
You know what's funny is I know it's a drinking game, but when you say drinking game, I don't think of beer pong for some reason.
Interesting. It's exactly
More of a
what it is.
competition, I feel like, beer
No, it's a
pong.
drink.
Well, it's a sport. Let's be honest.
It's a sport. I think
They're adding it to the Olympics this year.
they put more people would watch if they did.
That'd be hilarious.
And finally, deep thought question: what is the worst party you ever attended? Why was it so bad?
I thought about this forever, and I don't really remember
I feel like we probably
bad parties.
put bad parties from our memory.
Yeah,
The JVC Philly party.
that was a good part.
Well, we made it good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have
that
a
was
feeling
some
maybe
part-
it
that
wasn't
was-
very good until
that was some party.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys. I can't remember going to a party and being like, "We need to get the F out of here." Ever.
maybe Lori's 30th birthday that was
We talked about with the camping.
downpoured upon.
we did talk about
But,
that.
I
That
mean-
wasn't really a party.
Right. It was
I will say that
Circumstances.
there was a party in college where I literally walked in, took off my jacket, the police came in and gave me a citation
that's a bad
within like
party.
30 seconds of being there. It ended up getting tossed out or whatever, but that was bad, but it
We
wasn't
got
the
a good
party's
dinner.
fault.
Your dad came up and argued your case, and he took us out to Texas Roadhouse for dinner after those. So I think that was a plus. All right, there we go. That is 5
Brian
questions for
remembers
this
more
week.
about that day than I do. That steak was imprinted on you. I bet you probably had a burger actually
No, I would get a steak. I
with
think.
ketchup.
Okay, nothing wrong with ketchup.
all right. Are you going back to school, Brian? What's going on?
Yes, this week.
Yeah.
No students for 2-3 weeks, but I will be back. But most importantly, we will be back with our second birthday episode, celebrating our second birth, and the kickoff of season 3 of Comm Majors.
Oh my gosh.
And for such a exciting, unique event, there's only one person we could have come. Jimmy Costanzo.
Oh,
No, Huey
that's
Lewis.
exciting. Huey Lewis
Huey
and
Lewis!
Jimmy Costanzo.
No, most of you don't know that Jimmy Costanzo sings backup on that track.
Yes. So he's going to be performing. And we are going to be talking about a little 1980s independent film, Back to the Future.
Woo!
Very excited.
Just to close up our 80s conversation with, thinking of Back to the Future, the 80s were like the last time I feel like people were taking gigantic swings and chances with movies and getting a shit ton of money to do it.
Yeah. It's very smart.
Clue, yeah, like
you're right.
Yeah, and then once it got into the 90s, the movie business became more about like not losing money than making a ton of money.
Listen, again, watch Class Action Park.
Yeah.
And you will realize that giving money to somebody to make a movie was not even close to the worst idea that was taking place during this time period.
Yeah, watch it.
All right.
All right. Make sure you like, subscribe, review, share, etc. Make sure you check our friends at Pop Addled, Tim and Keenan out. And we will return next episode, of course, with Jimmy, with Huey Lewis, going back in time.
Adios.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, commenters.